So, welcome everyone to our Self Reliance and food storage chat. We're thankful that you're here tonight, and really, this is a bit of a conversation more than some of my other Zooms that we've had. And the reason that I set up this group in the first place is a place that we can get together as a community as we go through these more trying times and looking at how we can move through this really well together. And so I'm just going to share my screen with you all. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. Okay, so we've noticed a few things happening in the world lately, and especially in Australia. We've seen things that we haven't seen before and that we didn't expect to see. Earthquakes, tornadoes. Even this morning we had a social media outage, and that was worldwide for 12 hours. So who can tell what's going to come next? We didn't expect to see these things happening. So this really is a conversation about being prepared. Okay, let's see if I can. So let's have a think about where we are at in life before we start moving to the next space. And this I feel like is really important because as I've chatted with people in the group, we have to take stock of what you're actually dealing with before you can kind of move to the next space. So what is impacting you now? Is it job loss? I know that for a lot of people, they're facing really difficult times because they have to make a choice, and there's industries that have closed down. Things are really shifting, and so with that becomes low income. Maybe low income's been a thing that you've kind of dealt with for a long time. Maybe that's something that's kind of relative due to the circumstances of the last 18 months. Maybe because of that, you're finding yourself in debt. And I was talking to a gentleman, and I really wanted to provide him with some options, but because of the debt that he's in, it kind of took away some of the options for him. Maybe it's health issues. Maybe it's ongoing health issues, or it's new health issues. And for other people, it's relationship worries. Is there anyone that wants to say kind of what you're seeing that's be a concern at the moment? And also I put on here other things that make people nervous or scared, public speaking, shark attacks, global warming, all the random things. That I was talking to my husband, he's like, you got to put shark attacks in. Okay, we're in Australia, of course we worry about these things. But what are you finding that is impacting life for you at the moment, or that you've seen, generally speaking? Does anyone want to come off mute and share, or type in the chat and share?
Hopefully my background noise isn't disruptive, but yeah, well, we're dealing with homeschooling at the moment, and so there's those kind of demands. And the pressures, like we've also heard of, with all the what do you call it, the intensity of being at home, the relationship issues, I guess, can be more than just worries. There's domestic violence and other kinds of things that are occurring because people, and there's also anxiety, depression. Everything is intensified in a big way because people are having to face themselves and face their relationships. There's no escape. There's no distractions. They're right in it. So so there's all of that.
Yeah, 100%, Karina. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Exactly. And then on top of that is suicide and all the heartache that comes with that. And all the stuff that we're seeing on the news. So absolutely. So what we are seeing is so much more, I guess it's doubled what we were seeing last year. You know, the heaviness of it all, the heaviness, and as I was writing this, you know, we talked about the earthquakes, the tornadoes, but the pandemic. I was writing this: the pandemic, the lockdowns, the segregation, the censorship, and I had to change this word because the platform that I'm using picked up on it and didn't want to save my slides. It was said, you know, like you might lose your slides. I'm like, oh, you can't really even say these words anymore without it triggering something. And so I just changed the word. Maybe it triggered it, maybe it didn't, but something on there did. So these are some of the conversations that we're having now that we weren't having before, and which has pushed the need for groups like this to come together and start to think about our futures and start to prepare and start to think on a bigger scale about life, and you know how we are going to deal with the things that are coming at us and why we're dealing with these things.
You
So
know,
yeah,
Kelly, we're having a discussion on Sunday, and also actually on Saturday with my father-in-law. He kind of introduced the topic of, you know, these blackouts that was mentioned on the previous slide. You know, if he kind of went through what would happen if electricity, like if somebody wanted to take everything down, they could attack the electrical companies, or the suppliers, Endeavour or whatever, because that would stop literally everything. And it just shows how vulnerable we are, if you like, if you really stop to think about what we depend on. Whatever we are dependent on, we are vulnerable, that much more vulnerable.
oh, and that leads me exactly into what we're going to talk about next, and perfectly segued. Thanks, Karina. Absolutely. So, you know, if you think about where we've come from in the last 100 years, we even in the last 10, right? What the difference that where society has come. But I want you to take you back because, you know, we have become a society that's so dependent on welfare, dependent on guidance for what we can't do, dependent on handouts, but we're also dependent on luxuries. You know, we're dependent on our water supply, we're dependent on our electricity, we have become a very soft society. We have also moved away from the family as a unit where we depend on each other. And so, you know, we used to be able to go to our families and work out our concerns within our families and get that support. But over the years, the media has really we've seen a lot change, such that there's the portrayal of a family looks very different to what it used to look like. And because when we don't have that family unit to turn to, people then turn to the government for answers. They turn to somebody else to support them. We all need support, and we all want that. And it's great that if we can get that support from groups, then that's great. But when we don't have the family unit, us as a society starts to break down. And what we've seen over the years is everything move away from natural to chemicals to everything that we pick up. You know, it's really hard to find the organic in anything anymore, unless it costs a lot, right? So we are a society that's a quick fix, and we want to look to who's responsible, who's to blame, who's at fault, instead of, and this group is about being self-reliant, right? It's not about finding someone else to fix your problems. It's about what can we do ourselves that's going to fix the problem that we find ourselves in. And it might not be we didn't create it on our own. This is a society thing that we're now faced with. And as the societies break down, the earth feels it. It's like, there's a toxicness to the earth, and it just wants to revolt and wants to just, let's get rid of all that toxicness and start over. That's kind of how the earth wants to respond. So we find ourselves with quick fixes to our health, with quick fixes to our money problems, to our relationships, and to our food. So we, look how cheap fast food is, and look how expensive it is to get really healthy, clean food. So we find ourselves, divorce and credit, looking for easy ways to get out of our problems. And so when you come into this group, the Self-Reliance, and we haven't really covered this on any of our other classes, is that we're going to come back to where we want to get to is really, this is not the quick fix, right? This is the solutions for longevity and to getting back to being harmonious, having harmonious dialogue around us. So does anyone want to make a comment on that? I know it's kind of like I can touch a raw nerve in this conversation, because everyone deals with things in a different way. And myself, I'm a very holistic person. When I look at health, I want to look at holistically. I don't just want to look at weight. Are you thin or are you overweight? I want to look at health as what goes in your gut, and can you sustain it, and how are you thinking, and how are you breathing, and what are you reading, and what are you taking in on your body, chemically wise, or on your skin. What are you taking in when you're reading? What are you observing? How are you spending your time? Is it serving you for your values, or is it taking away from your values? I look at things, so I guess relationships, what we want those to be holistic. It's an opportunity for us to not be all takers, but to give and to support. And we need to create this kind of a community for us to be able to go forward in being able to create sustainable community. So we're not a person that, or as human beings, we're not meant to be alone. We're meant to be connected. We're meant to be able to support each other. We're not even meant to die alone. Cultures have so many different kinds of rituals for being together, and for saying goodbye, and for letting family members go. And all of those play an important role as part of who we are in our human psyche. So when it comes to health, I'm not into medications as a way of a quick fix. Certainly they're there to play a part. And I do understand the importance of, medication and doctors and so forth. I have a son who's type 1 diabetic, and so we would never be too far away from the chemist and our doctors who support him beautifully. But I'm also about what we can do for ourselves so that we don't have to rely on doctors and on um, I'm a firm believer that our body is the miracle, and if you feed it the right nutrients, it's going to heal itself. And so, I want us to be thinking we think holistically, we think locally and act globally, right? So if there's no one else that wants to make a comment on that, I'll just move to the next slide.
I do have one question.
Yeah.
So when you talk about, what you put in your body is what you get out of it. So I've just recently connected with a naturopath, and she's absolutely amazing. And we've just started these Zooms up ourselves, and the whole purpose of them is to help people prepare their bodies should they come into contact with the COVID virus. Also what they could take if they get it. But I think the main one which really kind of ignited something for me was, if people are planning to take the vaccines, how can they prepare their body? What nutrients can they take and supplements can they take to help them through that process? And I myself have a lot of family and friends who are going down that road. And it doesn't matter how much I try and talk to them to explain my point of view, the government's done a really good job at, kind of making them believe that that is the only way out.
Right.
What's your opinion on supplements?
Yeah, so I do believe that we need to really help our nutrition along. I wish that we could get all of our nutrition from eating fruits and vegetables, but I feel like even that has been the process isn't what it used to be, and so we do need to help our body along by but I do believe in whole food supplements. I don't necessarily would take a vitamin for this or a vitamin for that, or um, because they're isolates, and if you take things isolated, it's really going to serve one purpose, and then your body can't use it all. Like, for instance, you could take a vitamin C capsule or what have you, feel right, but if you um, for example, ate an orange, you're going to get way more benefits out of eating the whole orange versus just having the orange juice. So all the fiber that comes with eating the whole orange, all the, this, God has given us so much in terms of nutrition, that if we understood what was out there, we could really heal ourselves. But if we live in, Sydney, if we're living from the supermarket, then we definitely need to support ourselves with supplements and with good nutrition. And I actually do belong to a company that does have good nutrition, and I make sure that I have a greens balance every day, because I know I can't eat enough, reds, yellows, blues, and greens that's going to support my body. So I do supplement with those kinds of things, absolutely. And if that's kind of the area that I'm really passionate about, is helping people eat clean and eat well. And if everyone could go on a 30-day chemical-free, diet, then how amazing would that make your body feel? Is just being able to eat clean without chemicals would be super good for your body. Your body will bounce back, and you would just not realize how good you feel when you're not, when you're eating more fresh, I guess. But yes, and in terms of preparing your body to take a vaccine, or just after you've had one, there's things that you can do. And on a personal note, I'd rather get COVID than have the vaccine myself. That's just my choice. Because I know how to look after myself, and I know what other chemicals have done to me. I've gone through having iron infusions, and that has flawed my body. I've had the pill, and that wrecked my body. I'm like, okay, I just can't take those things. I'd rather actually get an illness and get well and then have the natural antibodies than trying to go that route. So I hope that kind of shed some light.
Oh, absolutely. Well, natural immunity is the best for us. Our bodies are an amazing, source of, I don't know, natural, a natural way to heal ourselves. And that's kind of the purpose of, why we were gifted these beautiful bodies.
Yeah, 100%. Welcome those who have just joined us. So, I'll move on to the next slide, but we can continue this conversation and bounce back to it. So, I really feel that this is an opportunity for us to prepare ourselves for the future, and that whilst we see the light at the end of the tunnel with lockdown now, and we're counting our days until the freedom, but I really feel that the time that we spend can be really useful while we're still in lockdown, and really prioritizing what your values are. It makes to make this time really worthwhile. Is it connecting with family and friends and making those connections really important? So we are doing having a lot of conversations in the chat. Welcome to those who this is your first time being in one of these Zoom meetings. It's really an opportunity for us to get to know one another and in our communities, because I feel that as the world shifts and as things become a lot more concerning, and I feel like we are going to see more unusual weather patterns. We are going to see, I heard on Saturday, no, it was actually Monday. We were driving in the car and on the radio, it was on 2GB, and they were interviewing the person responsible for giving Victoria the emergency powers over. So when you're in emergency setting, then they have more powers to, with the vaccines and so forth, to roll them out. And life is different when you're under emergency, right? And the very first thing that she says is, I wish I could remember her name, this won't be the end of this won't be the last pandemic we see in our lifetime. Okay, so not relating to COVID, we will see more pandemics. And that is a sobering thought. She said that, and the commentator just brushed over it. He said, well, let's not deal with that. Let's just deal with what we're dealing with right now. And I think that's all that people could really, handle the thought of. We're just in this one. Don't give me more pandemics. I'm just trying to deal with this one. But really, we do need to prepare that life is not going to be the same prior to 2019. And so I really feel like in order to be in a place where we feel confident moving forward, it's going to be more about how we can connect with each other and connect in support networks and in local communities. And one of my goals in this group is to have people hubs in different LGAs. If we feel like, one of the things that we plan for is food storage. What if we can't get to the shop? What if, like in Melbourne, they close down their Woolworths? That we don't know what's going around the corner, but we prepare for every eventuality. And then when we're prepared, when we see these things coming, we go, okay, we got this handled. We knew we kind of didn't know what was going to be there, but now it's here, we can handle it. And can you imagine then for those people who don't have jobs and don't have money, but they have a little garden and they have grown a whole bunch of lettuces, and they say, hey guys, I've got a lettuce or 20. I'll trade you lettuce for something else, right? And so in our communities that we're able to help each other. And so one of the ideas that I want to set up in this group is that you can be in the lower Blue Mountains and you've got a community of people there who are willing to support you in looking after your your basic needs. And so if you find yourself without income, you're not going to be destitute. If you find yourself without government support, you're actually going to be able to manage because you've got a community around you who we're all there to support each other. So this is where it becomes interesting, because one of the things that I feel like that the lockdowns and COVID has done is it's put distrust in the air. And when there is distrust, people feel like they can't reach out. They feel they are, are you on my side? Are we on different sides? But it really doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, we are all the same as each other. We're all trying to get through this as best we can. And so we do need to seek help. We do need to find our tribe, find those who are like-minded. So if we can then also start to retrain our habits, even our taste buds, and so that I feel like the more that we eat food that is removed from the natural source, the more it's addictive. And when we're consuming food that's addictive to our body, it sends chemicals to our brain, and it alters the way that we think and how we can our perception of things. So the more that we can get back to nature in the way that we eat, the less we're going to muddy up the chemicals in our brain. And so our brain is our gut is our second brain. And so what you feed your gut will send messages to your brain. And so one of the things that we talked about in earlier conversations is we need you all to be looking after yourself, so that when you're sleeping, you're getting good rest. So when you're awake and you need to go, you've got the energy to go. And so that's what you're going to find as part of the conversations in this group is not just about storing your food, not just about having your 72-hour pack that you can go, but also about making sure that you are equipped emotionally to cope, mentally prepared. You've got your communication strategies and your reach out methods with your community. So it's a very holistic look at preparation. And lately I've been saying this quote that, we don't get out of life alive. No one's getting out of here alive. Doesn't matter how you die, it's how you live that counts. And so as we journey in this process, it's all about who we be, who are we becoming. And part of my training in my business career is that when you set a goal, it's not in the reaching of the goal that's important. It's the journey, who you become along the way. So our goal is that we become prepared for any eventuality, and that when we get to that eventuality that we face, that we're doing it peacefully and calmly and together and holistically. So does anyone want to make any comments towards that? I know I've got my good friend Ali on here, who's an expert in the RFS and in helping people prepare for in emergencies and to evacuate and all those good things. And so we'll put some of those tips as we go in the group. So I am going to stop the recording now, and then we're going to open up the conversation a bit more. So let me just do that.